morning, good morning, good morning. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to let the live get going. I wanted to share some of the messages that I was getting as I was reading a specific Bible verse. Okay, so I'm gonna give it a couple minutes for others to join. But good morning to everybody as you join the live. Good morning, good morning. All right, good morning, everybody. As you join the live, I just wanted to share a quick passage. I'm gonna wait till it turns to 1 minute and then we'll get into it, okay? All right, we are at the 1 minute mark. So, good morning, everybody, as you join the live. So, I wanted to share a quick, I wanted to share my perspective of what was downloaded into my spirit. So, I woke up this morning, started me a cup of coffee, and I started reading my Bible. Okay, so I turned to Proverbs chapter 17, and then I saw 18 and 19. So, I read all three. Okay. So we are going to get right into it. Welcome in. Good morning, everybody. As you join the live, I was called to really just share what was on my heart. So, and the fact that the passage is called "The Lord Tests the Hearts." Okay, so I feel like in this season there's a lot of tests that I feel like confirmation. I feel like in this season, there's a lot of tests that you are going through, and your heart is being tested to see if it is as light as a feather. Okay, meaning, are you walking? Are you living righteous? Okay, so let's just get right into it. So Proverbs chapter 17 starts out. It says, "Better is a dry morsel with quietness than a house full of feasting with strife." So I said, what's a morsel? I needed to understand the passage that I was reading. So I looked up what is a morsel in the definition in the Bible. And the morsel is basically a small amount, okay? A small amount of something, far as like food, right? Or it's just a small amount of anything you can have in your life. That's what it means. Just means a small amount. But right in front of morsel, it says better is a dry morsel. So that means you don't have much of anything, right? With quietness. So this is more so of having a humble spirit, even though you don't have much. Then a house full of feasting with strife. And strife is basically conflict, right? You are subdued to your pain. You are not at ease. You are not at peace. Like your house is very chaotic. So it says, then a house full of feasting with strife. So you can have a fully furnished house. You can have food on the table. You can have all your heart truly desires, right? In your home, but your home is still full of strife. It's still full of chaos. It's still full of conflict. So I said, okay, I understand that. A wise servant will rule over a son who causes shame and will share an inheritance among the brothers. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. But the Lord tests the heart. I'm going to repeat that part. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. But the Lord tests the heart. An evildoer gives heed to false lips. A liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. So I looked up what does calamity means. And calamity is all about making a mockery of the Lord, making a mockery. So when you make a mockery out of the Lord, you will not go unpunished. Okay? This also talks about when you are, because it says, he who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who mocks the poor. This is again going back to better is a dry morsel with quietness than a house full of feasting with strife. So if you feel in your heart, because it's all about the heart, when you feel in your heart that you're better because you're mocking someone that you feel is beneath you, when you are mocking someone, you will not go unpunished. Mocks could be in your doing, your ways, your words. It all is all about a mock. It's all everything we do, we will be judged for. So when you make a mockery out of someone who you feel is beneath you, you will have to reproach the maker. Okay? Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children is their father. Excellent speech is not becoming to a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. A present is a precious stone in the eyes of its possession. Wherever he turns, he prospers. He who covers a transgression seeks love. So later in the passage, I was, because the Lord kept using the word transgression. And so when I was reading this part at first, it really didn't like, I'm not going to say register to me, but it didn't stand out as much until I got into the later passage. So transgression is God's law. It is the rule of following the rule of following God's law, following the 10 commandments. Okay? So again, he who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates friends. It's making a little bit more sense now because basically how I'm perceiving this passage is when you do not live righteous, you start to separate yourself. There's a splitting apart, there's a separating here. That's where you talk about the real versus the fake. There's a splitting here, there's a separating here that takes place. Okay? I'm going to keep on going. Rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows on a fool. An evil man seeks only rebellion. Therefore, a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man meet a bear robbed of her cubs rather than a fool in his folly. Whoever rewards evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. So when you're living unkindly, ungodly, when you are living unruly, because you that's the transgressions, right? when you are living unruly, evil will stay in your home. Evil will follow you. Okay? It will not depart. The beginning of strife is like releasing water. Therefore, stop contention before a quarrel starts. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both of them are like, both of them alike are an abomination to the Lord. Why is there in the hand of a fool the purchase price of wisdom, since he has no heart for it? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge and becomes surety for his friend. That kind of just also download. Like I just received another message as I was reading that, because a man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge. When we shake people hands, we are in some sort of agreement. That just kind of like dawned on me. When we're like we can shake a person hand that we just met, like, hi, it's nice to meet you. Where that's so A man devoid of understanding shakes hands in a pledge. So we are pledging ourselves, almost in a sense, like that's why that's why a lot of people don't shake hands with people. That's why a lot of people don't do shaking hands with people, because you don't know what ties, 12 on the clock, you don't know what ties you are binding to with this person. I don't know your ways. I don't know your works, right? I don't know if you live godly or ungodly. So now it makes sense on my own understanding. See, people have their own understanding, so therefore me reading the word, I'm becoming a better service and understanding of my ways. Okay? He who loves transgression loves strife, and he who exalts his gate seeks destruction. He who has a deceitful heart finds no good, and he who has a perverse tongue falls into evil. Okay? He who beggets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. And even now that I'm looking at the word scoffer, later on in the passage, I had to look it up again, because I was like, well, I looked it up for the first time because when I read it in this passage, it didn't really stand out. But when I got to the end of another passage, I was like, I need to better understand what is the Lord saying. We'll get to that. Okay? We'll get to that. A merry heart does good, like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Okay? A wicked man accepts a bribe behind the back to pervert the ways of justice. Wisdom is in the sight of him who has understanding, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her who bore him. Also, to punish the righteous is not good, nor to strike princes for their uprightness. He who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. I'm going to finish this and we're going to get into it. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perspective. So I stopped there. So let me understand the passage better. So basically, my understanding of this message, okay? He who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. So you could still be foolish in some ways, but when you hold your peace, right? When he shuts his lips, he is considered perspective. So sometimes, basically, the Lord is saying to be, for you to be foolish is when you talk too much. But when you sit back and listen, you can see it from a different perspective. And sometimes we have caught ourselves many a times where we have spoken and we didn't hear the person all the way through. And so when we hear them finally, we was like, oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoke too fast because I was coming from my own understanding. I was coming from my own perspective versus when you listen to the other person's perspective, it is not no more of your own perspective. It is not no more of your own understanding. We sometimes can be foolish because we're speaking too fast. We can be foolish because we're not listening to understand. Okay. So I was like, okay, I got it. Finish. Let's read. A man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. Okay. A man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. He rages against all wise judgment. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. And so I promise you, before I even read into chapter 18, because now we're going into chapter 18, that was what I was already saying out loud to myself. And so when I got into 18, because I asked the Lord, I said, if I'm speaking before, basically, I want to understand, I need to understand the righteousness of your ways, because this is basically what the Lord is saying. You live in the righteousness of the ways, you follow the laws, you follow the 10 commandments. You are not living to be selfish of your own understanding. I said, so, but Lord, if I'm right, I'm living righteousness. This is giving me an understanding of how I'm living. That's basically what I was saying to the Lord out loud. So then I started to read into 18, and that confirmed that I am, in some ways, living parts of righteousness. I'm not no saint. And so this is me trying to change my ways as well, my own understanding as well, my own perspective as well, right? My heart as well. So a man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. He rages against all wise judgment. A fool has no delight in understanding, but in expressing his own heart. When the wicked comes, contempt comes also. And with dishonor comes reproach. The Lord talked about that in 17. Okay. He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who was glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Right? Now going back to 18. That's um 17 verse 5. Now this is chapter 18 verse 3. When the wicked comes, contempt comes also, and with dishonor comes reproach. So anything you do, you're going to, whatever your ways may be, you're going to have to always meet your maker, and that is only one person. Okay. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The wellspring of wisdom is a flowing brook. It is not good to show it is not good to show partiality to the wicked or to overthrow the righteous in judgment. There is no in between, is what the Lord is saying. You can't go half stepping and say, oh, the wicked, the right, the ungodly, the lies, the untruths, the all the ways that we are not living righteousness. There's no in between. There's no in between. You have to be one way or the other. You have to be one way or the other. Okay. Even me reading this passage over again to you, I'm understanding it even more. Okay. It is not good to show partiality to the wicked. Do you hear that? It is not good to show partiality. You can't be half stepping. Either you coming with me, you walking beside me, or you're not. You got to choose. There's a choice. Or to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calls for blows. I highlighted verse 7, which I'm going to read right now. A fool's mouth in his destruction, a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are in the snare of his soul. That goes right back to what we're going to get to in chapter 19. But I'm going to repeat that part. A fool's mouth is his destruction. The power is in the tongue. Everything we speak, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Let me finish. The words of a table bearer are like tasty trifles, and they go down into the inmost body. He who is slothful in his work is a brother to him who is a great destroyer. I highlighted this verse that I'm going to read, which is chapter 18, verse 10. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. The name of the Lord the name of the Lord. You just calling out the name of the Lord is a strong tower in itself. The righteous run to it and are safe. You run to the Lord, you are safe. You run the other way, you're not safe. Because again, there's only one or the other. You can't be half stepping. Okay? The rich man's wealth in his strong city, and like a high wall in his own esteem. I highlighted this verse, chapter 18, verse 12. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before honor is humility. So I looked up the word haughty just to make sure that I'm getting this correctly. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty. That's your pride. That's your ego. Listen, before destruction, the heart, because that's what you're being tested on, your heart. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty. So your pride is haughty. Your ego is haughty. You think you are submarine. You think you are untouchable. And before honor is humility. We know honor is high ranking. Honor is worth. You earn that. You earn that. Your honor. And before honor is humility. You can't. get to a high ranking without humility. You have to experience that. You have to go through that and you have to get through that. He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. The spirit of a man will sustain him in sickness, but who can hear a broken spirit? The heart of the prudent acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. I highlighted this verse 16. A man's gift makes room for him, and brings him before, let me repeat this. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Your gift is going to make room for you, and you're going to be brought before great men. That's the honor. The man that has also been humiliated, the woman who has also been humiliated. The first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him. Your heart is being tested. Your neighbor has to come and examine your heart before you can even. Let me repeat it. The first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him. How you doing, Chevalier? Welcome in. Listen, good morning. Your heart has to be examined. That's the test. You have to be tested before you can move to the next. Okay? Casting lots causes contentions to cease and keeps the mighty apart. A brother offended is harder to win than a strong city, and contentions are like the bars of a castle. You're still restricting yourself because it's like the bars of a castle. He who finds a wife, I highlighted this part. I thought this was kind of funny. I actually chuckled a little bit when I read this. A man's stomach shall be satisfied from the fruit of his mouth, from the produce of his lips. He shall be filled. Do you hear that? A man's stomach shall be satisfied from the fruit of his mouth, from the produce of his lips. He shall be filled. Are your fruits clean? Are your fruit desirable? Are your fruit eatable? How is your fruit? Your fruit is your body, your lips, your soul. That's basically what the Lord is saying. Your lips, your body, your soul, it has to be fruitful. You want somebody to come chomping on your fruit that is not even eatable. You're pouring out into the world that is not even eatable. So you're not only killing or poisoning yourself, but you're poisoning others. That just dawned on me right here, reading this passage over again. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Death and life. So, what are you giving to through the power of your tongue? Death or life? Because again, because again, you cannot have both. You have to make a choice. You have to only choose. You can only choose one. Are you living godly or ungodly? You can only choose one. There could be no in between. We already talked about that. There could be no in between. Okay? So death and life are in the power of the tongue. And those who love it will eat its fruit. Those who love it will eat its fruit. You will be able to eat fruit that is eatable, that is not going to poison you, that is not going to kill you, that is not going to destroy you. He he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. The poor man uses entreaties, but the rich answers roughly. A man who has friends must himself be friendly, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Okay? Last chapter, chapter 19. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than one who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. It all goes back to what you speak, because there is life and death in the power of the tongue. So we can either give life to it or we can give death to it. Also, it is not good for a soul to be without knowledge, and he sins who hastens with his feet. The foolishness of a man twists his way, and his heart frets against the Lord. Wealth makes many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. So I'm when so a false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. I was looking for this verse. I need to actually highlight it. But in chapter 18, because now we're on chapter 19, but in chapter 18, the Lord says, let me find it really quick. Oh, I can't find it. I cannot find it. It was talking about, I'm so sorry, y'all. I remember because, let me just repeat it. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. It was talk. We'll get to it once, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. If it's meant to come back out, it's meant to come back out. Okay. Many entreat the favor of the nobility, and every man is a friend to whom to one who gives gifts. All the brothers of the poor hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He may pursue them with words, yet they abandon him. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. So when I read that part, I was like, oh, okay. So he who gets wisdom loves his own soul, and he who excuse me, and he who keeps understanding will find good. So wisdom and understanding are two different things. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. I was like, whoa, there's a total difference with that, with that verse. Wisdom, you who loves his own soul, but he who keeps understanding will find good. He who keeps understanding versus he who gets wisdom. So you have to keep understanding, you will find good. So you know how they'll say like, to give a quick example, understanding is understanding, like understanding what you're going through, or understanding that this is happening for a reason, understanding that there's, you get what I'm trying to say, like understanding is going to take you far more greater if you have a better understanding, if you understand, versus the wisdom could be like, well, I'm wise enough to know the difference, or it can kind of come off as like cocky or arrogant or prideful or egotistical, right? It's like the understanding is like, it's almost a sense of like that's it's like almost like a quietness. Almost, in a sense, it's almost like a quietness. It's almost a sense of like not being, the understanding is not being foolish. Let's continue. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies shall perish. Luxury is not fitting for a fool, much less for a servant to rule over princes. The discretion of a man makes him slow to anger, and his glory is to overlook a transgression. I highlighted this verse, chapter 19, verse 12. The king's wrath is like the roaring of a lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass. A foolish son is the ruin of his father, and the contentions of a wife are a continual dripping. Houses and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. An idle person will suffer hunger? What are you idling? I highlighted this verse, chapter 19, verse 16. He who keeps the commandments keeps his soul, but he who is careless of his ways will die. When I read that verse, we all got to die someday. So we're all leaving, period. But he who keeps his commandments keeps his soul. So when you are living godly, when you are living righteousness, when you are following the rules, when you are following the law, when you are following the 10 commandments, you keep your soul. Your soul will live on. But he who is careless of his ways will die. I said, whoa. When you are careless of your ways, you will die. We are dying. But when you live careless, you will die. Whew. He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back what he has given. Chasten your son while there is hope, and do not set your heart on his destruction. I highlighted this verse, chapter 19, verse 19. A man of great wrath will suffer punishment, for if you rescue him, you will have to do it again. When I read that, the Lord basically said, get out of his way. What is you doing? A man of great wrath will suffer punishment. For if you rescue him, you will have to do it again. The Lord says these people, when you are living, I don't care who you are, whoever you are, this could be even me. The Lord says, man of great wrath, when you are lying, when you are deceitful, when you are not living righteous, when you are living wicked, when you are living in strife, when you are doing evil ways, when you are not a pure heart, because this is what is this whole passage is about. Your heart is being tested. For if you rescue him, you will have to do it again. You are then going to be punished. You are then going to be punished because now you have intervened. Now you have gotten in the way. Well, then, listen to counsel and receive instruction that you may be wise in your later days. So it is better to be wise later on down the line in life. This just registered to me. It is so it is okay in a sense to be foolish in your earlier days because that is where you lean into better understanding. Listen to counsel and receive instruction. You will be able to hear that you may be wise in later days. Remember, I was talking about that earlier. I was like, he who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. Understanding is going to take you a long way. Okay? There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord's counsel that will stand. The Lord is the counsel. Okay? What is desired in a man is kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of the Lord leads to life, and he who has it will abide in satisfaction. He will not be visited with evil. A lazy man buries his hand in the bowl and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Strike a scoffer, and the simple will become, excuse me, strike a scoffer, and the simple will become worry. Now, this is when I had to look it up what scoffer meant. Because again, remember in chapter 17, he says, he who beggets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. But then when I read it here, strike a scoffer, and the simple will become worry. So I was like, well, what does scoffer mean? And the simple will become worry. Now I kind of lost train of what that. I now I it's gonna come back to me what it truly means because I think I talked about it, but strike a scoffer. Scoffer is like, give me. I might still have it. Give me one second. I might still have it pulled up. Okay. So scoffer means someone who is scornful, who is mocking somebody, who ridicules somebody, right? So you strike a scoffer, and the simple will become worry. So you are mocking someone, you are ridiculing someone, you are. It is basically how I'm taking this is basically like a spirit that is inside of someone that is not clean. Okay. Rebuke one who has understanding and he will discern knowledge. He who mistreats his father and chases away his mother is a son who causes shame and brings reproach. So you still have to always reproach the maker. Okay? Cease listening to his instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. A disreputable witness scorns justice, and the mouth of the wicked devours inequity. Judgments are prepared for scoffers, and beatings for the backs of fools. Judgment is prepared for scoffers. You make a mockery out of the Lord. You shame the Lord. You don't live righteous. You live unruly. You are a liar. You are in evil ways. You are in wicked ways. Judgment day is what you're preparing for. And that ends chapter 19. Judgment day is what you are preparing for. I was called to share this message, and I even got a better understanding of it myself, speaking it more so again out loud. Because I was reading it out loud to begin with. But now, even more reading it here, I'm getting a better understanding. And that's what you have to get, a understanding. I love this passage. If you got anything helpful from this message, or you want to share your intake, or you want to share your input, your insight, your perspective, please leave it down below in the chat room. If you want to see more of this kind of content, because it is definitely different in some ways than my normal content, feel free to comment that down below. Feel free to share this message. Feel free to like this message, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you feel called to. I love you guys as always to the moon and back, and I hope that you have an amazing day. All right, until next time, as always, love and light. Take care. Bye.